Hello, it is midday in Oslo. It's 2:30 p.m. in Kabul. I'm Monita, Rajpal. You're watching CNN, the world's news leader. This is World One, live from London. About an hour ago, the Norwegian Nobel Prize Committee announced the winners of the Peace Prize for 2011.
The Norwegian Nobel Committee has decided that the Nobel Peace Prize for 2011 is to be divided in 3 equal parts between Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, Leima Bowie, and Tawakkol Karman.
For reaction to this, let's go to CNN's Nema Elbagir, who joins us now here in our London studio. Nema, this is a huge deal. It's a huge message. Definitely, it's being sent to a region, parts of the world where women are often not seen as equal citizens.
Especially, Monita, in the case of Yemen, you know, amongst the Arab states, Yemen really ranks as one of the most conservative, and yet the fact that women have become the backbone.
Now to Nairobi in Kenya, and CNN's David McKenzie on the other 2 winners as well, who share the Peace Prize for 2011, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf and Leima Bowie, both of Liberia. And I'm assuming the reaction there, has there been any reaction at this point? It's only been, what, less than an hour since the announcement was made?
Well, there isn't any reaction yet, Monita, but certainly there'll be a lot of reaction in West Africa, and certainly that reaction will trickle down.
He's with Human Rights Watch Europe. He's also worked for the UN and the International Red Cross. He joins us from our New York bureau. We go to him live now. Jan, thank you very much for being with us. What's your reaction, first of all? Because we're looking at the Nobel Committee picked 3 women who worked and continue to work tirelessly for human rights, but particularly women's rights as well.
Indeed, I think it's a great prize, really, because they merge the courageous efforts of the 2 Liberia women, the president and the grassroots activist, with the unfinished business.
There are, well, plenty of people sharing their views online about the Peace Prize award. A lot of talk about it in the Middle East. Mohammed Al-Anazi says, congratulations to every Arab for the Nobel Prize win of Tawakkol Karman. It's a real pride for everyone. On Twitter, an Egyptian blogger called the Big Pharaoh comments, great Nobel Peace Prize went to women's rights, but sorry, Arab Spring was this year's major event. And Lindiwe Mlandu approves of the decision, saying, I've always known that this moment would come for Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. And finally, Jay Henry simply weighs in with congrats to the Nobel Peace Prize winners. They made a good decision. Well, for more on how the process worked, we want to bring in CNN's Jonathan Mann, who's covered quite a few of these ceremonies. He's at CNN Center. John, tell us a little bit about how they came to this decision.
Well, Monita, once again, a remarkable surprise to most of us, because people handicap this race, if you want to call it that, all around the world every year.
Congratulations to all of them as well. John, thank you so much. You're watching World One, live from London. 10 years ago today, the U.S. began its war in Afghanistan just weeks after the devastating 9/11 attacks. The objective then was to deny al-Qaeda the freedom to operate in Afghanistan and oust the Taliban regime, which had given Osama bin Laden a home. Well, a decade on, Afghanistan's future is still unclear. Fighting continues. More than 2,700 U.S. and allied troops are dead, and the Taliban are making a comeback. Well, we want to go to Afghanistan and join CNN's Nick Payton-Walsh, who's live in Kabul with more on that. Nick. With a milestone like 10 years, one does obviously ask, you know, what kind of progress has been made when you hear some reports with even a former general saying that actually they're barely 50% done.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, General Stanley McChrystal's comments to the Council on Foreign Policy only yesterday, quite remarkable. A general who lost his job here, frankly, for his candor and the candor.
Thank you. Nick Payton-Walsh there in Kabul. We want to see what newspapers around the world are saying about this. From the United Arab Emirates, the Gulf News has the headline, 10 wasted years in Afghanistan. The comment piece says, after 10 years, it is terrible that NATO politicians are allowing NATO generals to dictate political policy and to insist that they can win through force. The war in Afghanistan needs a political end, not a military victory. There's a guest editorial in The Australian with the headline, we can still win the Afghan war, but we are being led by donkeys. Jim Molan is a retired soldier and a former chief of operations for the multinational forces in Iraq. He says incompetent governments, not the military, will be to blame if, in the end, the war is lost. statesmen across the world that led their troops into the fight committed too few troops, and while their troops fought like lions, they led like donkeys. It is they who deserve the lion's share of the blame. And the headline in the Independent newspaper here in the UK is growing evidence of a final catastrophic betrayal. The article talks about the lack of support for women's rights in Afghanistan, but adds, against the narrowest of criteria, Operation Enduring Freedom was not a complete failure. The original aims were to hunt down Osama bin Laden and to dismantle the al-Qaeda networks. Both have been achieved, if not quite in the way that was anticipated. One issue, many views. You can read all those articles in full at facebook.com/W1CNN. This is World One, live from London. Here's a Friday quiz question for you. What do Jane Goodall, a cartoon turtle, and a one-legged swimmer have in common? Well, think about it. We'll tell you just ahead. The red carpet goes green. Argentina held its first ever eco-film competition as the stars came out for the second annual Green Film Festival. Brian Burns met some of the movie makers who set out to change the world one frame at a time.
It was green glamour on the opening night of the second annual Green Film Fest in Buenos Aires.
We want to take you now talk more about the Nobel Peace Prize winners, which were just announced about an hour ago from Oslo. Let's get more on the three winners this year. We want to go live to Mohammed Jamjoon at CNN Abu Dhabi. We'll go to him in just a moment, but first let's bring in CNN's David McKenzie at CNN Nairobi. And David, we're talking about here Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, as well as Lima Gbowe and Tawakkol Karmam. Now, the first two, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf and Lima Gbowe, are both from Liberia. And tell me about the kind of impact this decision is having. All right, David, thank you for that. David McKenzie there in Nairobi. Let's take you now to CNN Dubai, and that's where we can find Mohammed Jamjoon. And Mohammed, you've covered the stories out of Yemen quite a few times, and I want to talk about Tawakkol Karmam. You know, it's interesting. I was reading a report that had described her as, or she had often been described as, a thorn in President the Ali Abdullah Saleh's side because of her constant fight for women's rights and constant fight for democracy in that country.
That's right, Monita. I mean, she is a fierce activist on many different levels in Yemen, and she has been seen as a thorn in the side of the ruling party and the side of...
Right. Mohammed, thank you for that. Mohammed Jamjoon there in Dubai. Well, just a few moments ago, CNN spoke on the phone with one of the winners of the Nobel Peace Prize for 2011, Liberian President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf.
I tell you, I received it through my special assistant who was called from Norway to...
Well, Desmond Tutu, a former winner of the Nobel Peace Prize, he's celebrating his 80th birthday today. There's a star-studded party for the anti-apartheid crusader, and it's happening right now. Let's go to CNN's Robin Kerner, who is there in Cape Town, joins us now on the phone. Robin, tell us a little bit about who's there.
Well, Monita, I'm actually on a bus en route to the party. We've just had a 2-hour high Anglican Eucharist, a church service that was part rock concert, part mass for the Anglican Archbishop. And I say rock concert with good intention, because part of the congregation, in addition to the ambassadors and the political leaders and the church leaders and the family and friends, was Bono, the lead singer of the rock group U2, and he said yesterday that Archbishop Desmond Tutu was a real rock star, and that he was more dangerous than any other rock star he had met, even though he didn't wear sunglasses at night. And it was this amazing sort of jovial, very, very celebratory atmosphere in this church in the last 2 hours. People thanking Archbishop Desmond Tutu for the contributions he's made to democracy here in South Africa, and there was a real sense that everybody coming together to just literally say thank you, and he was very, very grateful. It was a very touching, very spiritual, but also a very fun experience.
All right, Robin, thank you for that. Robin Kerner. They're on a bus on our way to the party for Desmond Tutu. And of course, we'll hear more from Robin later on here on CNN, and of course throughout the day as we hear more about those celebrations for the former Nobel Peace Prize winner. What's happening in the world of sport today? We've got Don Riddell with everything, including mustaches, but you'll save that to the end.
Oh, you've spoiled it. Yeah,
no, I haven't. I haven't. I'm teasing it.
Good stuff. Monita, thanks very much. We'll start with a big shock in Major League Baseball's postseason. The New York Yankees have been knocked out of the American League playoffs.
That happy there.
Well, it was what he said that counted.
Okay.
Great pictures, though.
Yeah, I like it.
I don't know if we showed it, but there was one journalist with a moustache already, so he just put two of them up here.
See, journalists, we do have a sense of humor.
Yeah.
We can have a good laugh. Thank you, Don.
You're welcome.
You're watching World One live from London. A royal visit with a difference. Why an English prince is swapping a horse-drawn carriage. You're watching World One live from London. Britain's Prince Harry is in the United States to begin 2 months of training to fly helicopter gunships. Our royal correspondent Max Foster joins us now with more on this.
This picture just in, Monita, of Prince Harry arriving in California to the base where Top Gun was filmed.
How very appropriate. I can hear
the
music. Definitely need a trip to Vegas then at some point. All right, Max, thank you very much for that. Let's take a look at the global weather picture now. Record heat and sunshine has been the forecast for many parts of Europe, but a change, and we're all feeling it, is in the air. Jen Delgado is at the World Weather Center with that. Jen.
Hi, Monita, you're right. It's definitely changing over parts of
All right,
Europe.
Jen, thank you so much for that. Have a great weekend. You're watching World One live from London. I'm Monita Rajpal. Thank you for watching CNN.